Imagine holding the power to peer beneath the earth, not with X-ray vision, but with the subtle dance of sound and signal.
Hmm.
For many, a metal detector is just a piece of gear. But for you, the owner of a new Minelab Manticore, it's really a gateway to untold stories, forgotten histories, maybe even a little bit of treasure.
That's exactly right. And if you've just unboxed your Manticore, you're probably itching to get out there,
Definitely.
but maybe also feeling a little bit overwhelmed by its incredible capabilities.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
There is. So today, we're taking the ultimate deep dive into everything you need to know. We'll guide you right from the moment you take it out of the box through mastering its more advanced settings
Okay.
to understanding what those unique signals are truly telling you. And importantly, how to keep your powerful machine performing at its peak for years to come.
Our mission today is really to cut through any of the initial confusion. We want to give you the confidence to wield this detector like a seasoned pro.
Right.
We want to transform those first, maybe curious beeps into those really exhilarating aha moments where, definitively you've found something special.
Exactly.
This is your shortcut to not just using your Manticore, but truly understanding its language. So let's jump in.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start right at the very beginning. Getting your Manticore from its box to ready for its first sweep. When you unpack it, you'll see, a few main components.
The key players.
Yeah. The control pod, that's essentially the detector's brain.
Huh.
Then the upper, middle, and lower shafts that form its backbone. The search, coil your eye on the ground, and armrest for comfort during those long hunts. And, of course, the charger and the included headphones.
And getting that assembly right isn't just about making it hold together, is it?
No, definitely not.
It's really crucial for the ergonomics, for comfortable handling over hours, and also for ensuring the best possible performance. A wobbly coil, for instance, that can cause false signals. Just frustrating.
Makes sense. So let's go step by step through the physical build. First up, attaching that coil. You'll notice 2 small coil washers. Make sure they're sitting snugly in the yoke bracket on the coil itself.
Right in there.
Then, slide the shaft yoke over that bracket, line up the holes, and gently insert the bolt. Now, here's a critical piece of advice from the manual. Hand tighten that bolt.
Just hand tighten.
Absolutely. You do not want to use tools or over-tighten it. That can easily damage the shaft or the mounting points. A snug, hand-tightened fit is all you need for stability.
That hand tightening instruction, it seems small, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Over tightening, like you said, can strip threads, crack the plastic,
Yeah, nightmare.
leading to wobble that degrades your detector's performance, makes the signals less clear. You're aiming for secure, not Hulk smashed.
Right. Okay, once the coil is on, you'll extend the shafts to your comfortable detecting length.
Getting the fit right for you.
Exactly. Open the upper and lower cam locks, extend the shafts, but be mindful of that red line. Don't extend past that point. Then, close the cam locks securely. And a quick pro tip for you. If you ever notice your shafts slipping while you're out detecting, those cam locks can be tightened.
Ah, good tip.
There's a thumb screw on each that you can adjust. It's detailed on page 78 of your manual, but it's a common thing and an easy fix if it happens.
And adjusting that shaft length for your height, it's personal comfort, sure, but it also really impacts your detecting efficiency.
How so?
Well, if your coil isn't consistently the same distance from the ground with each sweep, your depth readings will be less accurate and your sweeps just won't be as effective. You lose consistency.
Got it. Okay, next, let's get that armrest positioned. Unlock the armrest lock, slide the armrest onto the rail, then lock it into place.
Simple enough.
Put your arm in it, check the fit. It should sit just below your elbow.
Yeah.
And for our left-handed detectorists out there, you can actually reverse the armrest strap for better comfort, so it fastens away from your body.
Little custom touches like that really enhance the experience, don't they?
They really do.
An uncomfortable armrest, it can lead to wrist strain, shoulder fatigue. It'll cut your detecting session short.
True.
The Manticore is designed for long hours in the field, so dialing in these ergonomic details right from the start is, well, it's invaluable.
Finally, connecting the coil cable. Wrap the cable neatly around the shaft. Make sure there's enough slack, though, so the coil can still tilt freely.
Important for ground tracking.
Then align the small arrow on the coil connector with the interface on the control pod, push it in firmly, and then tighten the retaining ring. Again, hand tightening should be plenty for a secure, waterproof connection.
Good cable management. It might seem like a minor point, but it prevents snags that can pull your coil loose.
Ah, okay.
It reduces wear on the cable, and critically, it minimizes false signals. A loose or flapping cable can sometimes act like an antenna, picking up electrical noise you don't want.
Right, you definitely don't want that.
What's really fascinating about the Manticore is just how quickly it can get you started. But understanding a few initial steps can definitely prevent a lot of frustration later on.
Okay, like what?
Before your first real hunt, we strongly recommend fully charging the battery. From completely flat, this can take a good 7 to 8 hours.
Wow, okay. That's a good chunk of time, so planning ahead is definitely smart. And speaking of charging, the manual mentions using a high-capacity USB charger, specifically one that provides more than 2 amps at 5 volts. What happens if you use, like, a weaker phone charger?
Well, if you use a lower power charger, you might find that the detector doesn't charge effectively. Or it could even, over time, lead to charger failure.
Ah.
The Manticore is a powerful machine. It needs adequate current to charge its internal lithium-ion battery efficiently. The charging process itself is pretty simple. Plug the USB-A cable into your charger, then connect the magnetic end to the charging interface on the back of the control pod.
Magnetic connector, nice.
Yeah, it snaps right on. Just always make sure those contact points are clean and dry before connecting. That avoids issues. You'll know it's charging when a green LED in the top left of the control pod flashes slowly. It turns solid green once it's fully charged.
And once it's fully charged, what kind of runtime can we expect out in the field? Are we talking all day?
Typically, yeah. You'll get around 10 hours of runtime on a full charge. However, if you're using the all-terrain high conductors mode, which is quite power-intensive,
Okay.
that might reduce the runtime by about an hour or so. It's a minor trade-off for the increased capability in that specific mode.
That's good to know. Still plenty of time. And if you're planning an epic all-day hunt and need even more power, can you use a portable power bank with it? Like the kind you use for your phone?
Absolutely. You can connect a portable power bank using the supplied USB charging cable to extend your detecting time. It's a fantastic feature for remote locations or those multi-day excursions.
Brilliant.
Just one critical safety note here. Never, under any circumstances, use the detector underwater or in wet, salty conditions while it's connected to a power bank.
Right. That makes sense.
That connection point is not designed for submersion when an external power source is plugged in.
Understood. So how do we keep an eye on our battery level during a hunt? Is it easy to see?
Yeah, very easy. The current battery level is always clearly displayed on the status bar right at the top of your screen. The detector is designed to maintain consistent performance regardless of battery level. But when it drops to critically low, like less than 1% remaining, you'll see an error message pop up briefly, and the detector will automatically shut down within about 5 seconds. So you get a quick heads up, but yeah, not much time to react.
Okay. Plan accordingly. So, with it charged and assembled, how do we get this thing ready for its very first sweep? What's the quick start procedure for a total beginner?
It's surprisingly straightforward, really.
Yeah.
First, just press the power button on the side of the control pod to switch it on.
Okay.
Next, you'll select a search mode. The Manticore comes with these pre-configured modes optimized for different types of detecting. You just navigate to Settings, then Search Mode. You'll see categories like All-Terrain, Beach, or Goldfield.
We'll dig into those later, I assume.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll delve into the specifics of each mode shortly, but for now, just pick one that generally fits your location. If you're in a park, pick an all-terrain mode.
So pick your mode. What's the very next crucial step to get clear signals? Something you should always do.
The third crucial step is to perform a noise cancel. This is an absolute must every time you turn it on or change locations.
Okay. Why is that so important?
Well, think of noise cancel like tuning a radio. It helps your Manticore find the clearest frequency to operate on, cutting through electrical interference from power lines, other equipment, maybe even stormy weather. That stuff can cause erratic false signals.
Ah, got it. So how do you do it?
You navigate to Settings, then Noise Cancel, and simply press the right soft key for auto noise cancel. Takes a few seconds.
That really cleans up the signal from the get-go then. And after that, you're ready to hunt, just like that.
Pretty much. Just press the back button to return to the detect screen, and you can begin your search.
What if, even after all that, you're still getting a lot of unwanted noise, like chattering or ground feedback?
Good question. If you continue to experience excessive ground noise after these quick start steps, your very next action should be to perform a ground balance. We'll explain that in detail soon.
Okay.
And if the noise still persists after both noise cancel and ground balance, then and only then, maybe a slight reduction in the sensitivity level might be necessary.
Right.
But always try noise cancel and ground balance first. They're your primary tools for signal clarity and retaining depth. Don't jump straight to lowering sensitivity.
Got it. Before you even get out there swinging, let's talk about protecting your investment. This is a precision instrument, right? A little care goes a long way.
Absolutely. It ensures its longevity.
First off, applying the screen protector. The manual strongly recommends it.
Do it. It's like a cheap insurance policy for your display. It shields it from the inevitable scuffs and scratches you'll encounter in the field.
Yeah, they happen.
It's a small, initial step that yields huge benefits in the long run. A clear display means you can accurately read all those subtle cues your Manticore is giving you. That's essential for accurate target ID.
Exactly. And when it comes to cleaning the display itself, use a slightly damp cloth with mild soap. And this is a big one. Never use solvents or alcohol-based cleaners on that display lens.
Big no-no.
Why not?
Those can cause hazing or even permanent damage to the plastic. Solvents can react with the optical plastics, leading to clouding or microfissures. It impairs visibility, and it's irreversible. Mild soap and water are gentle enough to remove dirt without risking any damage.
Okay, mild soap and water only on the screen. What about general cleaning of the other parts? Shafts, coil, etc.?
Same principle. A damp cloth with mild soap is your best bet. And just as important, always avoid using gasoline or any other petroleum-based products on any part of the detector.
Why is that?
These harsh chemicals can degrade the plastics, the rubber seals, even internal components over time. This not only compromises the detector's structural integrity, but also its waterproofing.
Ah, crucial.
Yeah, waterproofing is a key feature, a critical aspect of its design. Simple, gentle maintenance ensures the Manticore remains reliable and waterproof for years.
Now that we've got your Manticore assembled, charged, and protected, let's talk about its brain. The control pod, its display, and the core screens you'll be interacting with constantly.
Getting familiar with the layout.
Yeah. To orient ourselves quickly, you have the main control pod, which houses the display and keypad. On the sides, you'll find some critical buttons. There's a speaker for audio, a handy flashlight on the back for those evening hunts,
Very useful.
the headphone socket, and the charging interface. Your search coil plugs into the coil connector interface. The hand grip has that vibration feedback and the internal battery. And then there's the armrest, the stand to prop it up, the shafts, the coil itself, and the skid plate protecting the coil.
Just visualizing these parts as we discuss them helps tremendously.
Totally.
Building that mental map of the controls and display is like learning the layout of a cockpit, isn't it?
Yeah, good analogy.
It allows you to make adjustments and interpret feedback much more quickly, more intuitively, which is essential when you're focused on the ground.
So let's talk about the control pod and keypad your command center. This is where it gets really interesting because understanding what each button does is like learning the secret language of your Manticore. It unlocks its full potential.
Know your tools.
Let's start with the power button. Obvious one, turns the detector on and off. But it also has a secret hidden function, right?
Ah, yes, the backdoor reset.
Exactly. If you press and hold it for about 7 seconds from the off position, it performs a full factory reset.
Good to know.
That's a powerful troubleshooting tool to keep in your back pocket if you ever get your settings completely tangled up.
That hidden factory reset is truly a last resort, yeah. But knowing there can be a huge relief if you find yourself in a state of settings overload and just need to return to a known good configuration. It's a complete system refresh.
Okay. Then there's the backlight lighting button. A quick press here accesses the lighting menu, letting you adjust the display brightness.
Essential for different conditions.
Yeah, incredibly useful, from the glare of bright sun to detecting in the twilight hours.
Display visibility is paramount, isn't it? For interpreting those subtle visual cues, especially the ID map and target trace, being able to adapt the backlight ensures you always have a clear view, which is vital for confident target ID.
Below the display, you'll find the 2 action bar soft keys. These are incredibly versatile.
Very powerful.
They're context sensitive, meaning their function changes depending on the screen you're viewing. And crucially, they are user customizable. Their current action is always displayed right above them in the action bar, telling you what they'll do with a single press.
The dynamic nature and customizability of these soft keys mean that essential functions are always literally at your fingertips.
Yeah, no menu diving.
Exactly. It drastically reduces the need to dive deep into menus while actively detecting. Keeps your eyes and attention on the ground where it matters. Customizing them to your most frequently used actions can really streamline your workflow.
The main keypad, conveniently, has its own backlight for night detecting, so you can always see what you're pressing. And speaking of light, there's a light sensor built in.
Yeah, that's right. When the display backlight is set to auto, it automatically adjusts brightness based on the ambient light.
Clever.
Auto brightness is a fantastic feature, good for battery efficiency and user comfort. It prevents you from constantly fiddling with the settings as light conditions shift throughout your detecting day, let you focus on the signals.
Okay, on the side, you have the wireless audio on-off button. A short press toggles wireless audio, and a long press initiates pairing mode for your wireless headphones.
Simple enough.
Just below that is the side soft key, which is another gem. It's
Yeah.
fully user assignable.
Your personal shortcut button.
Totally. A long press on this button opens a selector, allowing you to quickly assign your favorite shortcut, maybe noise cancel or ground balance or even your favorite search mode, whatever you use most.
Having a dedicated, customizable side soft key means you can instantly access a critical function without breaking your stride or even glancing at the main screen. That kind of speed and efficiency can significantly maximize your finds, especially in quickly changing conditions.
Finally, you have the 4 navigation arrows. These are your primary tool for moving through menus and making quick adjustments right from the detect screen.
Your main interface.
Yeah. For instance, pressing the up arrow opens the main settings menu. The left and right arrows are quick shortcuts to adjust sensitivity, and the down arrow turns pinpoint mode on or off.
This intuitive navigation system is designed so that you can make those on-the-fly adjustments without extensive menu diving, ensures you stay focused on the ground and the signals it presents to you.
This raises an important question then. How do you interpret the subtle, often complex clues your Manticore is giving you?
Right. It all begins on the detect screen, which is truly your ultimate information hub.
Okay, break it down for us.
At the very top, you'll always see the status bar. This bar is packed with useful icons, like your selected favorite mode, if there's a large metal overload, whether the transmit function is disabled.
Gents disable.
Yeah, TX disable. If the flashlight is on, weather tracking ground balance is active, your wireless audio status, headphone connection with a little plus sign, if underwater boost is active, and your current battery level or charging status.
So it's like a mission control dashboard for your detector. It gives you critical info at a glance.
Exactly. Your quick glance at the detector's overall health and active features.
What are the key elements displayed on the main part of the detect screen itself? The real estate you're staring at while you sweep.
Right in the center, you'll see the current operating frequency, letting you know how your detector is listening. Below that, your sensitivity level is clearly displayed, indicating your detector's responsiveness.
Okay.
Then, the real game changer, the ID map. This is a dynamic visual representation of detected targets, showing their conductive and ferrous properties. We'll delve much deeper into this as it's a powerful identification tool.
I'm eager to get into that ID map. It sounds like the Manticore's secret weapon. What else helps you decide whether to dig?
Below the ID map, the action bar displays the current functions assigned to your soft keys. Handy reminder. And you'll also see the target depth indicator.
Ah, the depth arrows.
Yeah. This gives you an approximate depth of the detected target. Fewer arrows mean shallower, more arrows mean deeper. It's an excellent guide for estimating how deep your target is.
But it's approximate, right?
It is approximate.
Yeah.
Remember that its accuracy can vary with target type and ground conditions. It's less reliable in highly mineralized soil. But for example, a U.S. quarter might show 1 arrow at, say, 3 inches, but 5 arrows when it's over 9 inches deep. Gives you a good ballpark.
That's incredibly useful for deciding whether to dig or perhaps move on, especially for the signals that scream deep. And then there's the target ID number. How does that fit into the picture?
The target ID number is a numerical value, from 0 to 99, assigned to each detected target based primarily on its conductive properties. This is absolutely crucial because it allows you to identify objects before you even dig them up.
The pre-dig identification.
Exactly. The Manticore is renowned for its consistent, repeatable target IDs. For instance, a U.S. quarter will almost always give you a target ID of 88. Learning these common IDs for known objects, whether it's specific coins, rings, or common types of trash, becomes your pre-digging identification guide. It's your best shot at knowing what's below without moving any dirt.
So it's not just a number, it's like a specific fingerprint for a target.
Yeah.
That's a huge time saver and, frankly, a morale booster. You want to dig treasure, not every single piece of junk that makes a noise.
Precisely. Knowing those repeatable IDs is key to becoming a more efficient and successful detectorist. You spend less time digging trash, more time finding targets of interest. And then, of course, the settings menu, accessed by pressing the up arrow, is your portal to all these key detecting and general customization settings. We'll be diving into most of these in extensive detail.
Okay, let's talk about mastering detection, starting with search modes. This is where your Manticore becomes incredibly adaptable to different environments. What's the fundamental purpose of these different modes?
Search modes are essentially pre-configured settings. They're expertly tuned and optimized for specific targets and ground conditions.
Like presets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of them like specialized tools in your toolbox. You wouldn't use a wrench to hammer a nail, right?
Hopefully not.
Similarly, you wouldn't use a beach mode in a gold field. Choosing the right mode for your location and what you're hoping to find is the first crucial step to success.
So it's really about matching the detector's personality to the personality of your hunting ground. For example, if I'm in an inland field and specifically hoping for large silver coins, I'd pick a mode that maximizes my chances there.
Precisely. The Manticore organizes these modes into 3 typical detecting environments: all-terrain for general inland hunting, beach for all saltwater conditions, and gold field for prospecting for natural gold nuggets. And with each of these main categories, you have additional options for fine-tuning, like changing the search mode, setting a favorite for quick access, resetting a mode to its factory presets, or just viewing specific info about a mode's default settings. This flexibility allows you to truly dial in your approach.
So what does this all mean for your typical park or field hunt? What are the all-terrain modes?
For your everyday detecting in places like local parks, cultivated fields, historical homesteads, basically, most general inland scenarios, you're looking at the all-terrain modes. These sites often have a mix of modern and ancient habitation.
Meaning lots of different stuff.
Yeah, meaning you'll encounter everything from modern coins and jewelry to historical relics, often alongside a good deal of metallic litter, like iron nails, aluminum foil, bottle caps, the usual suspects.
And what's the primary focus of these all-terrain modes? What makes them stand out?
The all-terrain modes are designed for a balance: great depth, accurate target ID, and effective discrimination. They come in 4 specific flavors. You have General, which is your all-purpose mode, excellent all-around performance for most targets and conditions. Then there's Fast, which is optimized specifically for target separation.
Separation, so picking out good stuff near trash.
Exactly. This is fantastic for sites with a lot of trash or old habitation, where you might encounter what detectors call coke rejection issues.
Coke rejection. And no, we don't mean the fizzy drink. What is that?
Right. Coke, in this context, refers to carbonized coal or slag, often found in old settlement areas or industrial sites. It can trick other detectors into thinking it's a valuable target because of its conductive properties.
Ah, okay.
The Fast mode helps the Manticore confidently ignore those false signals, saving you from digging up frustrating pieces of carbon.
Got it. So fast mode is for high trash areas. What about for those very specific finds, like tiny hammered coins or big silver?
For small or thin targets like hammered coins, very thin relics, or fine jewelry, you'd want to use low conductors. This mode is also optimized for coke rejection. Conversely, if you're specifically targeting larger or thicker metal objects like large copper, gold, or silver coins, high conductors is your go-to mode. It's even got special discrimination capabilities for highly conductive targets like coin stacks.
Coin stacks, wow.
Yeah, it can help identify those.
So if I'm brand new to a site or just getting started with my Manticore, which all-terrain mode is the best starting point, where should I begin?
Our strong recommendation is to always start with an all-terrain mode, and specifically all-terrain general if you're unsure about a new area.
General, okay.
It's your reliable, balanced starting point before you begin specializing or tweaking things too much.
Makes sense. Now, beach modes. This sounds like where the Manticore really gets specialized.
Oh yeah, when it comes to beach modes, this is where the Manticore truly shines as a specialist for salty conditions. These modes are perfectly designed for all salty environments: dry sand, wet sand, the challenging surf zone, and even fully underwater.
And the big challenge with saltwater is its conductivity, right? It messes with detectors.
Exactly. Its inherent electrical conductivity can generate widespread false signals, masking real targets. It drives many detectors crazy.
So how does the Manticore navigate that notorious salt interference that can render many other detectors useless on a wet beach?
That's where its unique intelligence comes in. The Manticore specifically identifies any residual salt response and assigns it a target ID of 0, 0, with a low tone, similar to how it treats a ferrous target.
Ah, so treats salt like iron, basically.
In terms of the ID and tone, yeah. This makes it incredibly easy to distinguish salt noise from desirable targets. And you even have the option to discriminate out entirely if you wish. It's a game changer for clear signals on the beach.
That sounds incredibly helpful for clear signals. What are the specific beach modes we should know about?
You have Beach General, which is your all-round performer for most targets in both dry or wet sand. For small or thin metal objects like fine jewelry, which often get lost in the sand, there's beach low conductors.
Okay.
And if you're really pushing for maximum depth on those smaller, thin targets in either dry or wet sand, beach deep offers more aggressive settings. Finally, surf and seawater is specifically engineered for the most difficult saltwater conditions, including that challenging surf zone and areas where salt wash constantly interferes.
Surf and seawater for the really tough stuff. Got it. And then there's the Goldfield mode. This sounds like it's for a very specific type of, well, treasure hunt.
It absolutely is. Goldfield mode is purpose-built for gold nugget prospecting in mineralized goldfield locations.
Not your average park hunt.
Definitely not. Gold nuggets are notoriously difficult to find. They're often tiny, found in highly mineralized ground that can confuse other detectors, and dispersed in remote areas.
So what makes this mode unique for chasing those elusive gold nuggets? What's different?
Well, the default audio theme for Goldfield is prospecting. This provides a true threshold tone.
Threshold tone, that background hum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A constant background hum that is absolutely crucial for maximizing sensitivity to those very weak, often faint target signals from small gold nuggets. In this theme, the signal volume and pitch will vary proportionally to the strength of the target signal, allowing you to hear even the smallest targets that might otherwise be inaudible.
And the ground conditions in goldfields can be incredibly tricky, right? With rapidly changing mineralization. How does Goldfield mode address that challenge?
You're right. Most goldfield locations have wildly variable levels of iron mineralization that require constant ground balance adjustment. It's a pain to do manually. That's why tracking ground balance is the default setting for Goldfield. It continuously monitors and automatically adjusts to the changing ground conditions, freeing you up to focus entirely on the subtle signals. This mode is specifically suited for finding smaller surface gold nuggets, and it can also pick up some larger, deeper ones, even in that challenging mineralized ground.
Now let's talk about sensitivity. This is literally your detector's hearing, isn't it? How responsive it is to targets and the ground. What exactly does it control?
Sensitivity adjusts the detector's level of response by controlling the amount of amplification applied to the signals it receives. You might hear it called RX gain, which just means the gain or amplification of the received signal.
Okay.
The Manticore sensitivity range is from 1 to 35 with the default setting of 20, and it's displayed right there on your detect screen for easy reference.
So what's the golden rule for setting sensitivity? Do you just crank it up as high as it goes for maximum depth?
That's a common misconception. The goal is always to choose the highest stable sensitivity setting. Stable is the key word.
Stable,
Yeah.
meaning not too noisy.
Exactly. You want the best performance and maximum depth without the detector becoming erratic or chattery. And this is a critical point. If you start experiencing unwanted noise, before you even think about reducing sensitivity, you should always first perform a noise cancel and then a ground balance.
Right, those first steps we talked about.
Precisely. Those two steps frequently resolve the noise problem entirely, allowing you to maintain that higher, more effective sensitivity setting without sacrificing depth. Don't cripple your depth unnecessarily.
So noise cancel and ground balance are your first line of defense against unwanted signals before you even touch sensitivity.
Absolutely. For beginners, we often recommend starting with a slightly lower sensitivity setting, maybe around the default 20 or even a bit lower, and gradually increasing it as you become more comfortable with the detector and the specific site conditions.
Get a feel for it first.
Yeah. Decreasing the sensitivity can indeed reduce false signals and interference, and it also improves the detector's ability to differentiate between signals from actual metal targets and from ground mineralization.
What about those extreme sensitivity settings, say 31 to 35? I've heard some folks try to push it to the absolute max. Is that a good idea?
Well, while some experienced users do push sensitivity very high, it can actually be counterproductive for many.
How so?
Unless your detecting conditions are absolutely perfect, meaning completely quiet, no electromagnetic interference, benign ground increasing the sensitivity too much can cause desired targets to be masked by excessive noise. You just hear static.
Okay.
The Manticore even gives you a visual warning. The sensitivity level on your detect screen will turn red when you select an extreme setting between 31 and 35. It's telling you, hey, this might be too much.
Interesting. So higher isn't always better if it means you're hearing more noise than targets. Is there a quick way to temporarily boost sensitivity, like just for checking a questionable faint target?
Yes. There's a fantastic feature called Sensitivity Boost This is a soft key action that, when assigned, temporarily increases the sensitivity by 5 levels, or up to the maximum if you're already close.
Oh, handy.
It's incredibly convenient when you're investigating a faint target and want to hear it just a little bit better without diving into the menu. Just remember, it will automatically turn off if you manually adjust the sensitivity after using the boost. And you'll need to assign sensitivity boost to one of your customizable soft keys first to use it.
Okay, let's unpack this. The target ID, it's your detector's way of telling you what it thinks it's found, right? Before you even stick a shovel in the ground. It's like having a sneak peek, a vital piece of information.
That's a perfect way to put it. When the Manticore detects something, it assigns a target ID number, ranging from 0 to 99 based on the object's conductive properties. Simultaneously, and this is crucial, it classifies it as either ferrous, iron, or non-ferrous based on its magnetic properties.
Okay.
This target ID is displayed on your detect screen for about 5 seconds, or until you detect a new target.
And one of the most exciting things I hear about the Manticore is how consistent these IDs are. What does that really mean for someone out in the field? Is it like, I dug 10 quarters and they were all exactly 88? Or is there still some wiggle room?
That's a great question. The Manticore's target ID technology delivers remarkably consistent and repeatable IDs. So yes, a U.S. quarter will almost always give you a target ID of 88.
Almost always.
There might be a slight fluctuation, maybe to 87 or 89, depending on factors like depth, orientation, or ground conditions. But the consistency of that range is what you rely on. Learning these common IDs for known objects, whether it's specific coins, rings, or even common types of trash, becomes your pre-digging identification guide. You build a mental library.
That's a fantastic actionable tip then. So if I start finding a lot of, say, pull tabs of a certain type, I should make a note of their ID.
Absolutely. Recording the target IDs of the objects you find is invaluable. Over time, you can use this information to build your own custom discrimination pattern, making your detecting sessions far more productive by filtering out unwanted items more precisely.
Makes sense. How does the Manticore handle ferrous target IDs, like iron? Especially with its multi-IQ plus technology versus just using a single frequency. Does it just say iron, or is it more detailed?
Not at all. It's much more detailed. When you're in multi-IQ plus ferrous targets are assigned a conductivity ID on the same 0 to 99 scale as non-ferrous targets. But critically, they also receive a separate ferrous classification.
How is that shown?
It's indicated by a distinct low audio tone, and usually a red ferrous indicator below the target ID number. This gives you much greater target ID resolution for ferrous targets, which is incredibly useful for relic hunting, where you might want to differentiate between a nail and maybe a valuable piece of iron, like a buckle.
Ah, okay.
It also results in more stable target IDs for objects located right on that tricky ferrous limits boundary, helping you distinguish a single uncertain target from multiple nearby ferrous and non-ferrous items.
So it's not just iron, it's iron and it's acting like this specific conductive material. That's a lot more information. Potentially unmasking good stuff near iron.
Exactly. However, if you're operating in single frequency mode, ferrous targets are given a target ID on a different scale, typically 1 to 19, based only on their ferrous properties, along with a red ferrous indication.
Why the difference?
Because single frequencies simply cannot accurately determine the conductive properties of a ferrous target. Multi-IQ Plus gathers much more data.
What are the different target ID types we might actually see displayed on the screen?
You'll primarily see a simple target ID indicating the target's conductivity. Then there's the target ID with ferrous indication, where a red indicator lights up when the target's classified as ferrous note. This only appears when all metal mode is enabled, or if you customize it to always show.
Okay.
You also have the option to simply display the target ID number itself in red for ferrous targets. In beach modes, if you're in extremely salty conditions, you might see a salt indication with a target ID of 00. This also only appears if all metal mode is enabled.
0 for salt. Got it.
And finally, you might see no ID, represented by 2 large dashes. This means there's no detection, maybe a very weak detection where an accurate ID can't be determined, or the target is simply masked by your discrimination pattern or ferrous limit settings.
How accurate are these target IDs generally? And what kinds of things can influence them or make them jump around a bit?
Target IDs can vary by a couple of numbers depending on a whole range of factors. The metallic composition of the object, its orientation in the ground, its depth, your swing rate over it, and even the frequency setting you're using.
So even that US quarter might not always hit an exact 88 every single time. It could be 87 or 89 sometimes.
It might fluctuate slightly, yes, perhaps to 87 or 89 depending on those factors, but the consistency of that tight range will still be there. This is where Multi-IQ Plus really shows its benefit, though. Detecting the same target with different single frequencies might vary the ID by 1 or 2 numbers. But Multi-IQ Plus technology gives significantly greater target ID accuracy and increased detecting performance, especially in heavily mineralized ground. In benign, easy ground, a single frequency might work okay, but depth and ID stability will be limited by ground noise.
Okay.
Multi-IQ Plus operates across the full spectrum of frequencies simultaneously, achieving maximum depth with a very stable target signal, and effectively discriminating even at depth with minimal loss of ID accuracy, even in really challenging ground. It's just more robust.
What about when targets are really close together, like a coin next to a nail? Does that mess with the ID?
Yes, overlapping or adjacent targets can definitely influence each other, leading to misidentification sometimes. A common effect is that a weaker target might be pulled closer to the stronger target's ID, giving you a different target ID than if they were found individually.
So the nail affects the coin's ID.
It can, yeah. Or, if one target is very dominant, like a big piece of iron, the weaker target might not be detected at all. Understanding these factors helps you interpret those ambiguous signals, especially in trashy areas. It's part of learning the language.
If we connect this to the bigger picture then, the ID map and the target trace, these are like your Manticore's ultimate visual language, right?
Absolutely. They provide a simultaneous and comprehensive overview of both your discrimination settings and the real-time target information. It's incredibly powerful. It's like seeing through the ground, visually.
So it's not just a number popping up, it's a dynamic visual representation of what's happening underground. Tell me more about the map itself.
Exactly. The ID map has a conductive horizontal axis, ranging from 0 to 99 for target ID, just like the number. And it has a ferrous vertical axis, indicating whether a target is more ferrous or less ferrous.
Okay, conductivity, left to right, ferrousness up and down.
You got it. The map is overlaid with your discrimination pattern. Gray areas mean silent, rejected targets, while white areas indicate non-ferrous targets that will give a tone. And you also see your ferrous limits, which are the upper and lower gray areas that classify targets as ferrous or non-ferrous based on their properties.
And the target trace, what's that? It sounds like it gives even more subtle clues than just the ID number itself.
The target trace is basically a black dot, or sometimes a smudge that appears on the ID map when a target is detected. Its position indicates the conductive and ferrous properties, just like the ID number would. But crucially, its opacity is determined by signal strength.
Opacity, like how dark it is.
Yeah. A darker, more solid trace means a stronger, shallower target, while a lighter, more transparent trace suggests a weaker, deeper target.
So learning to interpret that trace shape and darkness sounds like a really valuable skill, going way beyond just the numbers.
It absolutely is. Understanding the target trace gives you additional nuanced information that isn't conveyed by the target ID number alone, or even just the audio. For example, if you detect a target ID you're not interested in, but the ID map shows an elongated or irregularly shaped trace.
Like smear instead of a dot.
Exactly. It might mean there's an adjacent object affecting the accuracy of the target ID. This visual cue can prompt you to investigate further, because it might be a good target masked by trash, or maybe just a complex junk target.
So it helps you decide if a bad signal might actually be a good signal in disguise just by looking at the shape.
Precisely. Factors that affect the shape and position of the target trace include the metallic composition, complexity and orientation of the object, its depth, your swing rate, and even the frequency setting. And the opacity, like I said, is a direct indicator of signal strength.
What if the ID map gets really cluttered with traces? Especially in a trashy park or something. It could get hard to tell what's what.
Yeah, that can happen. There's a handy soft key action called Clear ID Map that instantly refreshes the target trace display. It effectively clears the map of old signals.
Ah, like hitting refresh.
Exactly. It's incredibly useful when you have a lot of overlapping traces, making it difficult to interpret the true target you're swinging over right now. You'll need to assign this action to a soft key first for quick access, though.
Can you give us some practical examples? What do different common targets actually look like on the ID map? That's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Certainly. Let's take coins. Most non-ferrous coins appear as distinct round dots right on the central line of the map.
Central line meaning not ferrous, not overly ferrous.
Right. Low conductive coins, like maybe some hammered or cut coins, will be on the left side of the central line, while high conductive coins, such as large silver coins, will appear towards the right side. Just remember, some countries do have ferrous coins, and those won't appear on the central line. They'll be higher up.
What about those notorious pull tabs and large aluminum foil? They often give coin-like signals and can be so deceiving. How do they show up?
Pull tabs are indeed a common trash target that often appear as distinct round dots on the central line, very similar to coins. Since they're conductive and non-ferrous, you can't really deal with them using the ferrous limits. Instead, you'll need to adjust your discrimination pattern. When you dig up a new type of pull tab, use it to edit your discrimination pattern. Over time, you'll reject most of them.
But carefully, right?
Yes, carefully. You have to be cautious not to mask out desirable coins or jewelry that might share the same target IDs. It's a balancing act.
That's a careful balancing act, trying not to discriminate out good targets. Yeah. What about bottle caps? I swear those things are designed to trick us. How does the Manticore help us stop digging up rusty pieces of modern trash that sound like ancient gold?
Bottle caps are indeed complex, highly variable junk targets. They combine both ferrous and conductive properties. They often appear in the bottom half of the ID map.
Bottom half, okay.
The Manticore's preset lower limits in the ferrous limit setting are specifically designed to help classify these as ferrous, pushing their trace into the gray reject zone. If you keep finding the same type of bottle cap, you can choose a different ferrous limits preset or even edit your custom ferrous limits to cover its specific target trace. Generally, a higher numbered preset lower limit setting is more effective at classifying most bottle caps as ferrous.
Does their orientation matter?
Hugely. Their trace can also vary wildly based on orientation lying flat, at a 45-degree angle, or on edge. Sometimes they even slant up into the upper ferrous region. They're tricky.
And nails, those incredibly common ferrous culprits, where do they usually show up?
Nails are highly ferrous and generally appear on the top half of the ID map. They can be easily managed by adjusting the upper ferrous limits to silence them. The ID map makes their position very clear, so you quickly learn to recognize that signature.
What does the ground signal itself look like on the map if you're getting ground noise?
The ground signal often appears way at the very top of the ID map, typically around target ID 35 or so. Its exact shape and position will vary, depending on your specific ground conditions and how mineralized it is.
And electromagnetic interference, or EMI, that electrical chatter, what does that visual signature look like on the map?
EMI often shows up as a concentrated smudge near IDs 0 and 2, which might, at first glance, look like a very low conductive coin. However, you'll typically see accompanying random, scattered traces across the rest of the map as well.
So it's chaotic looking.
Yeah, this visual pattern helps you distinguish EMI from a legitimate target. It's a chaotic signature, not a tight dot.
What about large or complex ferrous objects? They can give really ambiguous signals that sound good but turn out to be, a big rusty bolt.
They certainly can. Ferrous objects with complex shapes often create unusual shapes on the target trace. And like bottle caps, their trace is usually highly variable with orientation. Think of a bolt head, for example. It has ferrous properties, but also a large, often conductive shape.
Right.
In some orientations, this can result in a target trace that slants down and to the right, from the upper ferrous region, potentially into the non-ferrous region, making it look good.
So how do you identify that tricky junk?
Sweeping over such a target from different directions while watching the target trace is key. It can provide a much better indication of its true ferrous properties. The more consistently it stays in the red ferrous zone as you change angles, the more likely it's just iron.
That sounds like a key technique for identifying tricky junk, sweeping from different angles. What about the opposite problem? Good non-ferrous targets that are sitting right next to iron. Can the Manticore's ID map visually unmask those? Help you see the good through the bad?
Yes. This is where the Manticore's superior target separation really shines on the ID map.
Sure.
Non-ferrous objects masked by nearby iron can create an unusually shaped target trace. Often the iron trash is much stronger and dominates the detection, pulling the target trace towards the ferrous region on the map.
Making the good target look like iron.
Right. However, with the Manticore's powerful processing, the non-ferrous target can often be seen pulling the target trace just into the non-ferrous region, effectively unmasking that desirable detection. It's a subtle but crucial visual cue for deep, valuable finds that other machines might miss entirely.
Wow. So you might see the trace mostly in the iron zone, but just dipping into the good zone.
Exactly. It's a sign to investigate. A coin buried deep in mineralized ground can even sometimes produce 3 dark traces. One in the upper ferrous, one on the central line where the coin would typically appear, and one in the lower ferrous region, sometimes connected by a vertical line. This is due to the mixed target and ground response. The map tells a complex story.
Pinpointing. This is absolutely essential for efficient recovery. You want to dig the smallest hole possible, right where the treasure is, not, excavate a giant crater.
Precision is indeed key. Saves time, saves effort, less mess.
How does the Manticore help with that precision? Does it have a special mode?
It does. The Manticore offers a dedicated pinpoint mode. When you turn this on, a couple of important things happen. First, all targets are detected, regardless of your discrimination pattern or ferrous limits. So you won't accidentally miss something due to your settings while pinpointing.
Okay, that's smart.
And crucially, motion detection is switched off, meaning signals persist even when your coil is stationary over the target. This is vital for zeroing in.
So it's not just beeping when you move, it holds the signal steady when you're directly over it. That makes sense for finding the exact spot.
Exactly. Pinpoint mode progressively refines the target response by gradually reducing sensitivity with each sweep over the target. It narrows down the signal until only a very precise, narrow response remains right over the center.
How does the audio work in pinpoint?
The detector's audio response, both tone and volume, will indicate the strength of the target signal directly beneath the coil. A quiet low tone means a weak or far target, while a loud high tone indicates a strong, close target. You listen for the peak.
And there's a visual aid too, right? The pinpoint bar, I saw that mentioned.
Yes. When pinpoint mode is enabled, a pinpoint bar appears at the bottom of your screen. As the center line of your coil approaches the target, this bar fills from the outside towards the center.
Like goalposts filling up?
Kind of, yeah. When the bar is completely full, that means the target is directly beneath the center line of your coil. And importantly, you still get the target ID and ID map updates in pinpoint mode, so you can confirm you're pinpointing the correct target and not just some adjacent trash.
That's fantastic. So how do we actually use this mode? What's the procedure to locate a target with that kind of precision?
Okay, first, hold your coil away from the approximate target location over clear ground. Then, from the detect screen, press the down arrow button to turn on pinpoint mode. The pinpoint bar will appear. Keeping the coil parallel to the ground, sweep slowly over the target location 2 or 3 times. This allows the detector to calibrate itself for more accurate audio responses. Next, locate the very center of the target by listening for the loudest signal or watching that pinpoint bar fill up. Once the pinpoint bar is full and the pinpoint icon highlights, your target is directly below the center of the coil.
So you're essentially drawing an X on the ground with sound and visuals.
That's a great way to think about it.
What if it's still noisy or hard to pinpoint in a really trashy spot? Sometimes pinpoint modes can get confused.
If you have difficulty pinpointing the target, or if the detector becomes too noisy in pinpoint mode, simply turn pinpoint mode off, press the down arrow again, and repeat the procedure from the beginning. Sometimes a quick recalibration is all it needs. The key is patience and slow, controlled movements.
Is there a more old-school way to pinpoint manually, without the dedicated mode, if maybe the mode is struggling in extreme trash?
Yes, it's absolutely possible, though it requires a bit more practice and a good ear. This manual method can be particularly useful in extremely trashy areas where pinpoint mode might struggle due to multiple overlapping signals.
How does that work? The wiggle method.
Kind of. Here's how. Sweep your coil slowly across the target location, keeping it parallel to the ground, to find the single loudest signal. Mentally note or maybe mark a line on the soil right where that loudest signal peaked.
Okay, line 1.
Then move to one side, sweep at right angles, 90 degrees, to your initial direction, finding the loudest signal again and marking a second line. The target will be located where those 2 imaginary lines cross.
The X marks the spot, manually.
It's a classic technique for a reason. Takes practice, but it works.
That's a tried and true method. And finally, before we grab our digging tools, any best practices for actual recovery to save time and effort and dig cleaner holes?
Absolutely. The golden rule is only dig signals that are strong, clear, and repeatable from multiple angles.
Repeatable is key.
Crucial. Trust both your audio and visual cues, the consistent tone, and the stable target ID and trace on the ID map. If it sounds faint, jumps around wildly, or disappears when you sweep from different directions, it's often either deep trash or just a false signal.
don't chase ghosts.
Exactly. This diligence will save you from digging countless pieces of frustrating trash and maximize your rewarding finds. And digging smaller, precise plugs also means less impact on the land and easier backfilling, which is always good practice.
Now we're going to dive into fine-tuning your Manticore with its general settings. This is where you really personalize your detector to your preferences and your hunting style. Let's start with language. Seems simple.
Yeah, a simple but important one. You can change between available languages in the settings menu. Just be aware that after a factory reset, the language will always return to the default, which is English.
Good to know. What about the vibration feature? Is that just for like stealth hunting or something else?
Not just stealth, no. Vibration provides tactile feedback through the hand grip, and its intensity is actually proportional to the signal strength.
Oh, interesting. So stronger signal, stronger vibration.
Exactly. It can be incredibly useful in noisy environments, like a busy beach with wind and waves, or if you're detecting fully underwater where audio cues might be less clear. It's also invaluable for those with any hearing impairment.
Makes sense. Any downside?
Just know that when vibration is on, your battery runtime will decrease slightly, so it's a trade-off for that physical feedback.
So a trade-off for that physical feedback and lighting options. What can we adjust there to optimize visibility in different conditions?
The Manticore offers pretty comprehensive lighting control for its display and keypad. For the display backlight, you have brightness levels from 1 to 10, or an auto setting that uses the built-in light sensor to adjust brightness based on ambient light.
Auto sounds convenient.
It is. Lower settings, of course, will conserve battery, which is always a consideration. The keypad also has its own backlight settings. Off, low, medium, high, or auto. Ensures visibility even in complete darkness during night hunts.
And there's a flashlight built right in. That's incredibly handy. I saw that on the back.
Yes, there's a powerful flashlight located at the back of the control pod. It has off, low, medium, and high settings. It's off by default when you power on.
Does it drain the battery much?
Be aware that continuous use of the flashlight will reduce your battery runtime noticeably, so use it judiciously when needed for digging or walking back in the dark.
Okay. Let's talk about the soft keys. This is where the Manticore really lets you customize your workflow, right? Put things where you want them.
Absolutely. The soft keys, both the two on the action bar below the screen and the dedicated side soft key, are user-assignable actions for quick access directly from the Detect screen. This is a really powerful feature because it allows you to put your most frequently used functions literally at your fingertips, saving you from navigating through menus all the time.
How do you go about assigning these soft keys? Is it complicated?
Not at all. To assign a soft key, you can either long press the side soft key to bring up a selector menu right there, or you can navigate via Settings, General Settings, soft keys.
Okay.
Once you're there, you'll see a list of available actions you can assign. This list includes incredibly useful shortcuts like all metal mode toggle, except reject a target ID, running auto or continuous noise cancel, triggering tracking, or auto ground balance.
Wow, lots of options.
Yeah, selecting your favorite mode, changing search mode, turning the flashlight on/off, adjusting display backlight, activating sensitivity boost, speaker mute, adjusting recovery speed, changing frequency, and clearing the ID map.
That's a lot. Which ones do you recommend assigning first?
It really depends on your style, but noise cancel, ground balance, sensitivity boost, and maybe all metal are very popular choices. We highly recommend experiment with these to find what works best for your detecting style.
So really tailoring the detector to how you hunt. What about the ferrous indication setting? What does that change?
This allows you to customize how ferrous target IDs are displayed. By default, ferrous targets appear with a black target ID number and a red line underneath. You can change this so the ferrous ID number itself is displayed in red, which some users find clearer for quickly distinguishing iron at a glance. Personal preference, really.
And the reset options, these sound like they're for when things go really wrong, or maybe you just want to start fresh with the mode.
Precisely. You have two main reset options. A factory reset returns all detector settings across the entire machine to their default values. This is a complete system wipe and can be done either via the settings menu or, as we mentioned earlier, by pressing and holding the power button for 7 seconds from the off position.
The panic button.
Kind of. The other option is to reset a search mode. This only resets the local settings for that specific search mode you're currently using, not the entire detector. It's useful if you've maybe messed up a specific mode's settings while experimenting, but want to keep your general preferences intact.
Okay, that's less drastic. And finally, underwater boost. That sounds like a setting for a very specific scenario. When would you use that?
It is. Underwater Boost increases the maximum volume specifically for Minelab 3.5mm waterproof headphones.
Only those specific headphones.
Only those. It's essential for hearing signals clearly when fully submerged, as water affects sound transmission. However, due to the potential hearing risk from that increased volume, it should only be used with these specific Minelab waterproof headphones. When it's active, you'll see a little plus symbol next to the headphone icon in the status bar as a reminder.
Okay, let's talk about the absolute heart of the Manticore. It's multi-IQ plus technology. This is truly what sets it apart, isn't it? Allowing it to see targets a single frequency detector might completely miss. How does the simultaneous multi-frequency system actually work? What's the magic?
Multi-IQ Plus is a high-power, simultaneous multi-frequency technology. This means your detector isn't just listening on one single frequency, like older machines. It's operating across a broad spectrum of frequencies all at the same time, constantly transmitting and receiving on multiple channels.
So it's multitasking its frequencies.
Exactly. It's the default and highly recommended setting for essentially all search modes because it gives you the best chance of detecting the widest possible range of targets, from tiny gold flakes to large silver coins, and it provides much more stable and accurate target IDs, especially in challenging mineralized ground where single frequencies struggle.
So it's like having a whole team of specialized detectors, each listening for a different type of metal or size, all working together simultaneously.
That's a great analogy. But what's the real magic here? Can it unmask something truly subtle, like maybe a tiny gold chain lying right next to a rusty nail, or a single frequency machine might just scream iron and you'd walk away?
Yeah, can it do that?
That's precisely where Multi-IQ Plus shines. It's not just about broad detection across many types of metal. It's about unmasking in complex environments. Imagine the individual frequencies as different filters or viewpoints. Multi-IQ Plus simultaneously processes information through all those filters, integrating the data to give you the clearest, most stable signal, even in the most challenging, trash-filled grounds.
So that tiny gold chain.
That tiny gold chain often gets a distinct voice in the Manticore's chorus, allowing you to hear past the overwhelming noise of the nearby iron. It gives those masked targets a chance to speak up.
Incredible. So if multi-IQ Plus is generally so superior, why would anyone ever choose to use the single frequencies that the Manticore also offers?
It's true that Multi-IQ Plus is generally superior for most situations. However, the Manticore also offers the option to use powerful single frequencies, 5, 10, 15, 20, and 40 kilohertz. While Multi-IQ Plus is typically preferred, a single frequency can be advantageous in very limited and specific situations.
Like what? Give me an example.
For example, maybe 5 kilohertz might offer a tiny edge for extremely large, deep, high conductors like a big silver dollar, but only in very benign, non-mineralized soil. Or perhaps 20 or 40 kilohertz could be slightly better for incredibly fine gold jewelry very close to the surface, again, in specific, quiet environments.
So it sounds like a pretty rare circumstance to opt for single frequency, maybe for a very niche target in almost perfect ground conditions. Are there other reasons someone might try it?
Occasionally, yeah. In some extremely noisy environments with exceptionally high electromagnetic interference, EMI, where even noise cancel isn't fully effective, a single frequency might pick up less ambient noise than Multi-IQ Plus man.
Maybe quieter in extreme EMI.
Potentially. However, the trade-off is usually reduced maximum target sensitivity across a wide range of target sizes compared to Multi-IQ Plus Zero. It's also really important to note that powerful discrimination tools like Ferris limits are disabled when you're in single frequency mode, and your ID map will simplify significantly. You lose some of the Manticore's intelligence.
And are all frequencies available in all search modes? Or are they restricted?
No, they're intelligently restricted. Each search mode is limited to the frequencies that provide the best performance for that specific mode's purpose. For example, beach modes are Multi-IQ Plus only.
Why only Multi-IQ Plus for beach?
Because that's really the only way to perform successfully and stably in the highly conductive saltwater conditions. Single frequencies just can't handle it well. Goldfield mode, which is optimized for low conductive gold nuggets usually found better at higher frequencies, excludes the lower single frequencies like 5, 10, and 15 kilohertz.
Makes sense.
Interestingly, the all-terrain high conductors mode provides benefits that typically come from very low frequencies like below 4 kilohertz while still using Multi-IQ Plus CRAS. So it offers impressive depth for high conductors without the limitations of running just a single low frequency.
Clever. And a crucial step whenever you change frequency or search mode. You mentioned this before.
Always perform a noise cancel each time you change the frequency or search mode. No exceptions.
Got it.
This ensures your detector is operating on the cleanest channel possible for optimal performance in that new configuration. You can even assign the frequency change function to a soft key for quick access if you find yourself experimenting with it often.
Now, let's talk about audio themes. This is about tailoring your detector's voice, right? Customizing how it communicates with you through sound beyond just beeps.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Audio themes configure how your detector sounds for specific scenarios and also your personal style or preference. This is a local setting, meaning it only affects the current search mode you're in. It's well worth understanding each theme, as they offer unique benefits and can significantly enhance your detecting experience by giving you different kinds of audio information.
So if I'm just out for an everyday park hunt, nothing too specialized, what's a good starting point for audio? Which theme?
Normal is an excellent choice for everyday detecting. It gives full-sounding audio responses where both pitch and volume vary. The pitch is determined by the target ID, according to how you set it up in target tones, and the volume is modulated by signal strength and depth. Stronger, shallower targets give louder responses.
Oh, okay. Pretty standard.
This theme uses what's called a reference threshold, which means the background hum blanks go silent for rejected targets based on your discrimination pattern.
What if I'm in an area with a lot of electromagnetic interference? My detector always seems to chatter and give false signals there. Is there a theme for that?
Yes. For high EMI scenarios, the enhanced audio theme is optimized. It's similar to normal, but weak EMI chatter will sound thin or tinny, while strong, legitimate target signals will sound more robust.
Ah, so it changes the quality of the sound for EMI versus targets?
Exactly. It helps you listen through the chatter and distinguish consistent non-random signals from the noise. It can even allow you to use higher sensitivity in EMI-limited locations than you might get away with using the normal theme. Pitch is still driven by target ID, and it also uses that reference threshold where rejected targets go silent.
What about maximizing target separation in really trashy areas? I want to hear that coin sitting right next to the iron nail. Is there a theme to help with that?
For improved target separation in inland locations with a lot of ferrous trash, the depth audio theme is incredibly useful. In this theme, your normal target tones are disabled. Instead, the pitch of non-ferrous targets varies continuously by signal strength or depth.
How does that help?
Weaker signals have a lower pitch, stronger signals have a higher pitch. Ferrous targets will always have a consistent low pitch. This continuous pitch change for good targets helps them stand out more clearly against the low grunt of iron. You can fine-tune the ferrous pitch, minimum pitch, and maximum pitch of conductive tones in the settings. This also uses a reference threshold.
And for nugget hunting, I'm guessing there's a specialized audio theme just for finding those tiny bits of gold.
Indeed. The prospecting theme is purpose-built for maximum sensitivity to very weak targets like small gold nuggets or fine jewelry. It's best used at low trash sites where you can really focus on faint signals. Target tones are disabled here too.
How does the pitch work in prospecting?
Pitch varies continuously based on signal strength depth and the ferrous property of the target. A key feature here is the ability to turn the ferrous tone completely off.
Turn off iron sound completely. Why?
This is incredibly useful when searching for tiny gold, as very weak gold targets can sometimes be pulled into the ferrous region by nearby iron or heavy ground mineralization, making them sound like iron. Turning off the ferrous tone makes those faint, potentially valuable non-ferrous signals much more clearly audible. This theme uses a true threshold.
You mentioned profile earlier, available in some themes. What does that do within these audio themes? Simple, medium, rich?
Right. The profile setting, available in normal, enhanced, and depth themes, controls the amount of volume or timbre modulation applied to target signals. Simple has minimal modulation, so most targets sound somewhat similar in volume regardless of depth. Medium applies moderate modulation, making medium to deepest targets sound more distinct and quieter. Rich applies a large amount of modulation, making even subtle differences in depth or signal strength very audible and distinct. It's about how much dynamic range you want in your audio feedback for depth.
And the threshold, that constant background hum that experienced detectorists often use, how does that factor into these themes? You mentioned reference and true.
The threshold level and pitch are crucial tools for distinguishing between desirable and undesirable targets, and importantly, for hearing very faint signal responses that might otherwise be missed. The level ranges from 0 off to 25, and pitch from 1 to 50.
So what's the difference between reference and true threshold?
In normal, enhanced, and depth themes, you have a reference threshold. If a rejected ID, based on your discrimination, is detected, the threshold blanks or goes silent, clearly indicating trash. It's often recommended to set the threshold level to 0 off in very trashy areas, unless you specifically want to hear this blanking effect for every piece of junk.
So it's usually off to avoid constant silence in trashy parks, unless you specifically want that cue.
Yes, often. For the prospecting theme, however, you get a true threshold tone. This is more nuanced and constantly provides a hum. It's ideal for gold detecting, as it emphasizes faint gold signals in typically mineralized and noisy goldfield soils. You adjust the level for optimal audibility of those quiet signals.
How do you set the true threshold level?
If the threshold is too low, faint signals are inaudible. If it's too high, even loud signals can be masked by the overpowering hum. A faint, barely audible hum is generally just right to emphasize subtle signal variations against the background.
The ability to customize target tones sounds like a really powerful way to make your detector speak your specific language, highlighting exactly what you want to find and maybe quieting down things you don't.
It absolutely is. The target tone setting allows you to divide the entire target ID range, 0 to 99, into separately adjustable tone regions. You can precisely move the start and end points of each region to group adjacent target IDs together.
Okay, so I can define my own ID ranges.
Exactly. Then, within each defined region, you can control its pitch from 1 to 50 and its volume from 0 to 25. This granular control allows you to, say, amplify the tones of desired targets, like silver coins, so they really pop with a high, loud sound, or make undesirable ones like certain pull-tab ranges fade into the background with a low, quiet tone.
So you could make, say, high conductive coin signals really stand out with a distinct high-pitched loud tone while making mid-range trash much quieter.
Exactly. You have various default options to start with, like 1 tone, everything sounds the same, 2 tone, low for iron low conductors, high for high conductors, 5 tone, dividing the range into 5 distinct pitches, and variable pitch settings.
Variable pitch.
Yeah, these create a tonal gradient across a region indicated by a sloping line on the screen. The steeper the line, the greater the pitch difference across that ID range. There are also all tones options, like one region all tones, where adjacent IDs within a single defined region have slightly different pitches, offering even finer audio resolution if you like that.
And this is specific to each search mode.
Yes, this adjustment is local. It affects only your current search mode, so you can have different audio profiles for different hunts or sites. A park setup might sound very different from your beach setup.
Managing iron audio is always a challenge for detectorists, isn't it? Especially in those old sites littered with nails. How do ferrous tones help us here?
Ferrous tones give you incredibly fine-grained control over how iron signals sound. This is absolutely crucial for distinguishing desirable targets from iron, especially when you're hunting in heavily iron-contaminated ground. You can adjust the ferrous volume from 0 silent to 25.
So you can make iron quieter.
Yeah. A great pro tip.
Yeah.
Set it to just audible in trashy areas, maybe a level 2 or 3. Then significantly increase the volume of your preferred target tone regions, like your coin region. This way, you still hear the iron, you acknowledge its presence, but your good targets pop much louder and clearer.
Smart. What about the pitch of those iron signals?
You can control the ferrous pitch from 1 very low to 50 high. The default is set very low to make iron distinctly different from higher-pitched conductive targets, making it immediately recognizable as iron. Then there's the stabilizer setting.
Stabilizer, what does that stabilize?
This ranges from 0 to 12. This setting is specifically designed to reduce false detections from ferrous objects, often called falsing, which is common in iron-contaminated, mildly mineralized sites where iron can sometimes sound like a good target.
Ah, stopping iron from lying to you.
Exactly. Higher stabilizer settings significantly improve the stability of your audio, target IDs, and ID map by effectively breaking up the iron audio and making it sound less coherent, less like a good target.
So the stabilizer is directly battling those tricky iron signals, making them sound less appealing, less likely to trick you into digging.
Yes, it adds nuance to the audio, helping you better distinguish good targets from iron. If your site isn't particularly challenging with iron, a lower stabilizer setting, like 0.3, usually provides the best overall performance and depth. But in heavily iron-contaminated sites, cranking it up, maybe 4.8 or even higher, could be invaluable for sanity.
Is there anything else related to stabilizer?
Yes, for even more nuance, there's a stabilizer filter. This is a simple on-off setting, and it's only available when stabilizer is set to 1 or higher.
What does that stabilizer filter actually do?
It applies additional processing specifically to those false audio responses from iron objects, making them sound even weaker and more subdued. further helping you to identify them as unwanted signals. It's another layer of audio clarity, specifically targeting iron falsing.
This raises an important question then. How do you deal with those really tricky signals that sound good but turn out to be trash, like bottle caps or certain old iron that falses convincingly? You mentioned Ferris limits earlier. This sounds like where the real power lies.
It really is. Ferris limits gives you unprecedented control over exactly that problem. This setting allows you to control whether the detector classifies targets as ferrous or non-ferrous based on both their ferrous and conductive properties. It's similar to iron biases on other detectors, but with much more granular, precise control. You're drawing the line yourself.
So it's not just a blanket ignore iron below this line setting. It's much more sophisticated, looking at both properties.
Far from it. You have a range of preset settings that cover most common ferrous targets, and most users will probably find these sufficient for general hunting. But for more precise control, you can create up to 4 custom ferrous limits.
Custom limits. So what could you do with those?
This means you can do things like specifically accept certain ferrous coins that some countries produce if you wanted to find those. Or, more commonly, you can use them to precisely reject notoriously difficult ferrous junk items, specific types of bottle caps, certain nails, or weird iron bits that typically cause false signals and frustrate detectorists.
How does the ID map relate to these Ferris limits? It sounds like they work hand in hand visually.
They absolutely do. Think of the ID map as your X-ray vision for metal, but with an adjustable iron filter defined by the Ferris limits. The ID map is divided horizontally into upper and lower limits, shown as gray rejected areas.
Upper and lower, what do they control?
The upper limits control the Ferris classification of most common iron objects, like screws and nails, which typically appear in the top half of the ID map. Increasing or closing these limits, moving the gray area boundary closer to the center line, will classify more targets as iron and reduce false signals from those items.
But is there a downside to closing them too much?
Yes, it can also slightly reduce target separation if set too aggressively. Decreasing or opening them will classify fewer items as iron, potentially increasing falsing from nails, but might improve separation near iron.
And the lower limits, are those for different kinds of iron trash? Flat stuff?
Exactly. The lower limits primarily control the classification of flat iron objects like bottle caps and rusty sheet metal, which often appear in the lower half of the ID map. Increasing these limits, moving the boundary up, can classify more flat iron as completely ferrous.
Any downside there?
It might slightly reduce depth on some deep, low to mid conductive targets in mineralized ground if you raise it too high. Bottle caps, for instance, often have target IDs between 0 and 40, which is why the preset lower limits have a raised region specifically in that zone to help filter them out.
And how do these limits affect the audio cues? What do you hear?
Targets detected within the gray areas of the Ferris limits.
Yeah.
These are the rejected areas on the map, will give no target response or Ferris indication. They'll be completely silent. This is what you want for trash.
Okay.
However, if you're in all-metal mode, where discrimination is off, targets in these gray Ferris limit areas will give a Ferris tone, and the Ferris indicator will display. Targets detected in the white areas, accepted, will give a regular non-Ferris tone as defined by your target tone setting.
That live target trace feedback on the ID map must be incredibly useful when editing these custom limits, seeing the trace move as you adjust the boundaries.
It is invaluable. When editing custom limits, which are subdivided into several adjustable regions for both upper and lower limits, allowing very complex shapes, the target trace remains live in the editor screen.
So you can test targets right there.
Exactly. This means you can place a test target, like a specific Ferris coin you want to accept, or maybe a frustrating falsing screw you want to reject, swing your coil over it, and see its trace appear in real time on the editor map. Then you simply adjust the region's control points along both the conductive, horizontal, and ferrous vertical axes until the target trace is either safely inside the white accepted area or squarely in the gray rejected area.
Can you account for orientation?
Yes, you should vary the orientation of the test target while sweeping to capture all its trace variations, ensuring thorough acceptance or rejection no matter how it lies. It's a powerful way to teach your Manticore precisely what you want to hear and what you want to ignore based on the specific junk or targets in your detecting environment.
So, beyond those advanced Ferris limits, how do we simply tell the detector what target IDs we want to hear and what we don't? based just on conductivity.
That's where the discrimination pattern comes in, right?
Exactly. The discrimination pattern setting is where you explicitly tell your Manticore which target IDs, 0, 9 to 9, to detect, and which to ignore or discriminate out. If an ID is rejected in the pattern, it will be silent. If it's accepted, you'll get a target response, assuming it wasn't already rejected by the Ferris limits.
And this is separate for each search mode, too.
Yes, this is also a local setting, meaning each search mode can have its own custom discrimination pattern. This allows you to tailor it perfectly for different hunting grounds and target preferences. Maybe you want to accept foil in one area, but reject it in another.
And how do you go about creating or editing this pattern on the fly? Say you dig a piece of trash you want to ignore from now on. The discrimination pattern editor allows you to easily accept or reject target IDs. Similar to editing Ferris limits, the target trace remains live in this editor screen, so you can see detected targets in real time as you adjust your pattern.
How do you select the IDs?
You simply select a starting ID using the arrows, then choose a selection width, which can be 1, 3, 5, 10, or 20 IDs at a time, and then press the Accept or Reject soft key. If you have a target with a trace that spreads across a few IDs or its ID varies slightly, you can repeatedly press the Reject or Accept soft key to ensure its entire range is fully covered within your desired pattern.
What if you want to hear everything? Every single bit of metal, good or bad, iron or not. Maybe you just want to rely on your ears and the ID map.
That's where all metal mode comes in. This mode globally disables the discrimination pattern completely. So all metal objects, both ferrous and conductive, will be detected and given audio response.
So no silent rejection based on conductivity ID.
Correct. When all metal is enabled, ferrous targets will still display a target ID with ferrous indication. It's set up that way, and will give ferrous detection tones rather than remaining silent. Their sound will be defined by your ferrous tones and audio theme settings. Targets rejected only by ferrous limits might still be silent, depending on your settings, but anything not rejected by ferrous limits will make a sound.
Is all metal on by default?
No, all metal mode is off by default, but it can easily be assigned to a soft key for quick toggling. It's actually the default assignment for the left soft key. Many experienced detectorists prefer hunting in all metal to ensure they don't accidentally miss anything saint or oddly shaped that might get notched out by discrimination, relying solely on their audio interpretation and ID map reading skills.
Next up, recovery speed. This setting sounds crucial, especially for dealing with those incredibly trashy sites where good targets can hide right among the junk. How does it help?
It truly is crucial for those situations. Recovery speed dictates how well your Manticore differentiates between multiple targets that are very close together. In high trash areas where coins might be sitting right next to iron nails or multiple pull tabs, a higher recovery speed helps you separate those good, often smaller targets nestled amongst the larger or more dominant junk signals. It allows the detector to reset faster between targets.
Faster reset means hearing individual targets better, but is there a trade-off? Does faster mean less depth?
Yes, there's always a trade-off. High recovery speed values may slightly reduce your maximum detection depth and potentially the accuracy of your target ID on deeper targets. Conversely, lower recovery speed values generally increase depth, but targets that are close together can blend into one signal, and you might also mix more ground noise with your target response because the detector is listening longer.
So it's a balance between separation in trash and depth in clear ground. What's the range for recovery speed, and how does it relate to how fast I should be swinging my coil?
The recovery speed setting ranges from 0, slowest, to 8, fastest, and it's a local setting, specific to each search mode. A good general swing rate for your coil, regardless of recovery speed, is around 2 to 3 seconds for a full sweep from right to left to right.
Okay.
A higher recovery speed setting generally allows you to swing at a slightly faster rate without missing many targets, especially in trashy ground. It also inherently helps to reject some types of ground noise, but remember, it does come with that potential slight decrease in maximum depth on fake targets.
So if I'm on a really noisy beach, for instance, with lots of ground chatter, would a higher recovery speed help me cut through that noise in addition to separating targets?
Exactly. If you're experiencing high levels of ground noise, especially at the beach or when detecting underwater, increasing the recovery speed can definitely help reduce that noise and improve target separation simultaneously. The key is to experiment. Try adjusting recovery speed and even varying your swing rate slightly to find the sweet spot that minimizes ground noise and maximizes target detection for your specific conditions. Don't be afraid to change it as conditions change.
Another absolutely critical setting is ground balance. What exactly is it doing, and why does it matter so much for getting clear, stable signals?
Ground balance is the process of calibrating the detector, specifically to the local ground conditions you're standing on. Its primary purpose is to eliminate, or at least minimize, false signals caused by ground mineralization.
Mineralization, like iron in the soil.
Exactly. Things like iron oxide, salts, or other minerals in the soil that are conductive or magnetic can trick your detector into thinking there's metal when there isn't, causing pops, clicks, or a constant hum. The Manticore's ground balance setting ranges from -9 to 99, with a default of 0 for most all-terrain modes.
How do I know if I need a ground balance? What's the telltale sign?
If you find your detector giving erratic detections or a constant noisy hum that suddenly resolves or changes dramatically when you lift the coil a few inches above the ground, that's a clear sign you're dealing with ground noise. It means that the detector is reacting to the soil itself, and it's time to ground balance.
So it's like zeroing out the ground signal so you only hear actual metal targets?
Precisely. While the default of 0 might be fine for less mineralized areas, in noisy conditions, performing a ground balance is essential. The Manticore offers several methods for this. The auto ground balance is generally the easiest and the recommended method for most situations because the detector automatically finds the best setting.
How do you do the auto ground balance?
To do it, first find a clear patch of ground with no metal targets. Hold the coil stationary and slightly away from the ground. Press and hold the right soft key, which is usually assigned to auto ground balance by default. While holding the key, continuously pump the coil up and down, raising it maybe 6 inches and lowering it to about 1 inch off the ground, repeatedly. Keep pumping until the ground balance value shown on screen settles and the audio stabilizes or goes quiet. Then release the button.
Pumping the coil tells it what the ground sounds like.
Exactly, it samples the ground response at different heights. For beach modes, using auto ground balance is strongly recommended due to the constantly changing conductivity of wet sand. And for very noisy ground anywhere, sometimes sweeping the coil side to side while pumping, instead of just straight up and down, can help the detector get a better sample of the ground conditions.
What if you prefer a more hands-on approach, or if auto balance isn't quite nailing it for some reason?
You can perform a manual ground balance. In this method, you manually adjust the ground balance setting using the navigation arrows while pumping the coil. You listen carefully and adjust the value up or down until you hear the minimum amount of ground signal, ideally aiming for a faint, even hum or silence. A low tone generally means you should increase the GB value, while a high tone means you should decrease it. This method requires a bit of practice to fine-tune by ear, but can be useful in very specific, difficult ground types.
And for constantly changing ground conditions, like on a wet beach going in and out of the water or in a highly variable goldfield, that sounds like a nightmare for constantly having to stop and do manual or even auto adjustments.
That's where tracking ground balance comes in. This intelligent feature continuously monitors the ground signal as you detect and automatically adjusts the ground balance setting in real time to ensure it's always correct for the ground directly under your coil.
So it does it automatically, constantly while you hunt.
Yes. It's the default and highly recommended method for the beach, surf, and seawater and goldfield general modes, as it effectively manages those constantly changing conditions, freeing you up to focus purely on target signals without interruption. Remember, if noise persists, even after performing a noise cancel, ground balance is your next crucial step to achieving a quiet, stable detector.
Noise cancel. We mentioned it as a crucial first step. This sounds like it's key to fighting electrical interference, that annoying chatter or popping that can mask targets or just drive you nuts. What exactly is happening when we perform a noise cancel?
Metal detectors, including your Manticore, can indeed become noisy due to external electrical interference, often called EMI. This comes from sources like power lines, electrical equipment, even your own phone, Wi-Fi signals, other detectors operating nearby, or even atmospheric conditions like thunderstorms. Your Manticore interprets this interference as inconsistent, erratic detections or just general background noise. Noise cancel addresses this by automatically shifting the detector's internal operating channel to one of its many available channels that is less susceptible to those specific sources of noise currently present.
So if I'm hearing crackling or popping when the coil is held perfectly still in the air, or maybe random phantom signals that aren't repeatable, that's likely EMI.
Yes, that's a classic symptom. Electromagnetic interference can significantly degrade both your audible noise level and your pinpointing performance, making it hard to hear faint targets or locate finds accurately. The Manticore has a wide range of internal channels. It can shift to 19 channels, from -9 to +9, and noise cancel helps it find the quietest one for your current location. This is a local setting, meaning it applies only to your current search mode and frequency combination.
And it's important to do this regularly, right? Not just once when you start.
Absolutely vital. You should perform a noise cancel each time you change the frequency setting, each time you change the search mode, and whenever you move to a new detecting location, or even if conditions seem to change, like someone nearby starts using electrical equipment. It's an actionable step that keeps your detector running optimally.
How do you do it? Is auto the best way?
Auto noise cancel is the recommended method for most situations. You simply hold the coil stationary and away from any metal objects, press the right soft key, usually assigned to auto noise cancel, and the detector rapidly scans its available channels to select the one with the least interference. This usually takes only about 3 seconds.
Is there a way to let it keep scanning for longer? Maybe to find the absolute quietest channel if the first try isn't perfect?
Yes, there's continuous auto noise cancel. For this, you press and hold the right soft key for auto noise cancel. The detector will then repeat scanning cycles until it identifies a significantly quieter channel or you release the key. This can be useful in really noisy areas.
What about manual noise cancel? When would you use that?
For more hands-on control, especially when detecting very close to other detectors or in areas with extremely high or unusual EMI, there's manual noise cancel. This lets you listen to each channel individually using the navigation arrows to manually select the quietest one yourself. It's like tuning an old radio dial to find the clearest station.
And if EMI still persists after all that, after trying auto, continuous, maybe even manual noise cancel, what are my last resorts for a quieter hunt?
If you've tried noise cancel diligently multiple times and there's still a lot of EMI making the detector unstable, your remaining options are primarily to reduce the sensitivity level, or potentially try switching to one of the single frequencies, as they might pick up less broadband noise in certain specific environments compared to multi-IQ plus scans. Just remember, crucially, every time you change the frequency, you absolutely need to perform another noise cancel immediately afterward.
Got it. Always noise cancel after changing frequency. Finally, let's touch on overall volume control. This seems straightforward, but what should we keep in mind when setting it?
The main volume setting is global, meaning it affects all search modes equally. It ranges from 0, which is muted, up to 25, with the default setting of 20. You should adjust it to a comfortable level for your hearing and your headphones, ensuring that loud signals from close or large targets don't blast your ears.
But it interacts with other volume settings, right?
Yes, that's the key nuance. Remember that this is your overall master volume, but you also have more granular control through the individual volume controls for your specific target tones in the target tones menu, the volume of your ferrous tones in ferrous tones, and the level of your threshold tone in audio theme. This hierarchy allows you to fine-tune your audio experience, precisely set the master volume comfortably, then adjust the relative volumes of different signal types within that overall level.
Moving on to how your Manticore delivers its audio and connects to the world around it. Let's start with the included wireless headphones, the Minelab ML105s. They come in a box, right?
Yes, the Manticore comes supplied with Minelab ML105 low-latency wireless headphones. The low latency part is important.
Why low latency?
It means there's minimal delay between when the detector processes a signal and when you actually hear the audio in your ears. This is crucial for precise target identification based on subtle audio changes and for quick reactions when pinpointing. High latency can make pinpointing feel laggy and inaccurate.
Makes sense. And can you use them wired too?
Yes. The good news is these headphones can also be used wired with the included cable if you prefer, or maybe if the battery on the headphones happens to die mid-hunt. Always good to have a backup plan.
How do you pair them up with the detector for that seamless wireless experience the first time?
To pair them initially, first, long press for about 2 seconds the wireless side button on the detector. You'll see the little wireless audio indicator icon in the status bar start to flash rapidly, indicating it's searching or in pairing mode.
Okay, detector searching.
Then, on the ML105 headphones themselves, press and hold the multifunction button, which is the center button, until its status LED starts flashing red and blue alternately. That means the headphones are in pairing mode. They should then find each other and connect automatically within a few seconds.
How do I know they've connected?
The wireless audio indicator on your detector screen will turn solid, stop flashing, and the headphone LED will start flashing blue every 3 seconds or so.
What if they've been paired before and I just want to reconnect them quickly for my next hunt? Do I have to pair them every time?
No, definitely not. To reconnect previously paired headphones, it's even simpler. Just give a short press to the wireless side button on the detector to turn wireless audio on, if it's off. Then, Just press a multifunction button on the ML105 headphones to turn them on. They will automatically find and reconnect to the detector.
Easy. And the status bar icon tells me if I'm connected?
Yes, the wireless audio indicator in your status bar will always show your current connection status, so you know at a glance if you're connected wirelessly.
And if they're not pairing, or maybe I'm getting distortion or crackling in the audio, any quick troubleshooting tips for wireless audio problems?
Yeah, a few things to check. First, ensure the headphones are actually powered on and sufficiently charged. Make sure they're within about 1 meter, roughly 3 feet, of the detector, with no major obstructions in between, including your own body sometimes.
Okay, stay close.
Move away from potential sources of interference like mobile phones, Wi-Fi routers, or other Bluetooth wireless devices, as these can disrupt pairing or cause audio distortion crackling. If problems persist, try powering the ML105 headphones off and then back on again. Or, as a last resort, you can perform a factory reset on the headphones, check their manual for how, and then attempt to repair them from scratch with the detector. Sometimes, trying a different set of compatible, low-latency wireless headphones can help isolate whether the issue is with the headphones or the detector itself.
What if you prefer wired headphones? Maybe you have a favorite pair, or you just don't want to worry about charging headphones. Can you use any pair?
Yes, you can connect any standard 3.5mm, that's 18-inch headphones, to the Manticore. But be mindful of the connector plug's diameter. It needs to be less than 9mm, about 0.35 inches, to fit properly into the recessed headphone socket and allow the waterproof seal to work.
Ah, so a chunky plug might not fit or seal.
Exactly. You can also use larger 6.35mm 14-inch headphones with a suitable adapter, which is available as an accessory from Minelab or third parties.
How do you connect them physically, and is there anything special to remember for wired connections, especially regarding the waterproofing?
To connect wired headphones, first you need to unscrew the waterproof dust cap from the headphone socket, which is located on the rear of the control pod. If it's screwed on tightly, the manual suggests a small coin can help provide leverage to loosen it. Plug in your headphones firmly. You should see the headphones connection icon appear in your status bar, confirming the detector knows they're plugged in. When you're not using headphones, always make sure the dust cap is securely screwed firmly back into place to maintain the detector's overall waterproofing. This is crucial for keeping out water, dust, and dirt.
And for full submersion, like actually taking the Manticore underwater, can any wired headphones work?
No, absolutely not. For full submersion, up to the rated 5 meters or 16 feet, you must use Minelab's own specific 3.5mm waterproof headphones. They have a unique connector with an O-ring and a retaining ring that creates a fully waterproof seal when properly connected.
So only the official Minelab waterproof ones for going underwater?
Correct. Before connecting them, it's critical to ensure both the headphone socket on the detector and the headphone connector itself are completely dry and free from any sand, dust, or dirt. Align the connector carefully, push it in, and then lightly tighten the retaining ring to form the seal. Don't over-tighten.
And if the audio is too quiet underwater with those special headphones?
That's when you might try turning on the underwater boost setting we mentioned earlier. But again, only use underwater boost with these specific Minelab waterproof headphones due to the potential hearing risk from the increased volume if used with regular headphones in the air.
And if you submerge the detector without any headphones connected, just with the dust cap securely screwed on, any issues there? Is the socket itself waterproof?
Even if the uncovered headphone socket itself is designed to be waterproof and won't immediately damage internal electronics if water gets in, submerging it without a securely fitted dust cap is not recommended. It can lead to corrosion of the socket pins over time, or potentially trigger false headphone detection by the software if the pins get shorted by water or debris. So always ensure the dust cap is securely fitted if you're submerging the detector without headphones connected. And if the socket has been submerged, follow the specific headphone socket maintenance advice in the manual afterward to keep it clean and functioning correctly. Keeping those connection points clean and dry is really vital for long-term reliability.
Let's talk troubleshooting. Things inevitably go wrong sometimes. Many troubleshooting steps for your Manticore seem to boil down to really understanding the feedback it's giving you, right? Whether that's audio, visual cues, or actual error messages.
That's a great way to look at it. The detector is constantly communicating. Let's start with common issues detectorists often encounter.
Okay, what if I'm getting a lot of erratic or excessive noise? It's chattering, popping, just unstable. And I've already tried noise cancel and ground balance. What else can I try?
If noise persists after those fundamentals, the next steps are: first, physically move away from obvious local sources of electromagnetic interference. EMI, if possible. Things like power lines, electric fences, cell towers, even large metal buildings, or another detector is right next to you.
Rule out external factors.
Exactly. Then diligently perform another auto noise cancel, followed by another ground balance, just to be sure. If it's still noisy after confirming those are done correctly and you've moved away from obvious interference, then reducing the sensitivity level slightly is the next logical step. Remember, the goal is always the highest stable sensitivity, not just the highest number.
Makes sense. What if there's absolutely no sound coming from my wired headphones? That can be really frustrating mid-hunt.
Yeah, dead silence is no fun. First, check the obvious. Is the detector powered on and fully started up? Are your headphones plugged in completely? Is the little headphones connection icon actually displayed on the status bar?
Check the icon, good tip.
Verify that the overall volume is set to an audible level, not 0. A good test is to unplug the headphones and check if the detector's internal speaker makes noise that helps isolate the problem to the headphones or the socket. Finally, visually inspect the headphone connector plug and the socket on the detector for any moisture, dirt, or debris that might be preventing a good connection. And if possible, try a different set of headphones to rule out an issue with your specific pair.
And for the ML105 wireless headphones, if there's no sound or they just won't pair or stay connected, similar checks.
Pretty similar process for wireless. Ensure the headphones themselves are turned on and sufficiently charged. Confirm that the detector's wireless audio is turned on, wireless side button, and properly paired. The wireless icon on the status bar should be steady, not flashing. Verify both the detector's overall volume and the headphone's own volume control, if they have one, are set to audible levels.
What if they won't pair?
If they're not pairing, try powering the headphones off and on again. Ensure they are within that 1 meter, 3 feet range of the detector with no physical obstructions. Move away from other potential Bluetooth or wireless interference sources, and if all else fails, perform that factory reset on the headphones and then attempt to repair them from scratch.
Okay, what about charging issues? Like, I plug it in, the LED might be flashing on the charger brick, but there's no charge indicator showing on the Manticore status bar.
That often points to the charging source not providing enough power. Ensure you're using a USB charging source with a minimum capacity of 2 amperes at 5 volts.
So a standard phone charger might not be enough.
Some older or lower power ones might not be, no. If you're using a lower powered USB port, like on an older laptop, the detector might actually be discharging faster than it charges while it's on. In that case, try charging with the detector switched completely off. Also, avoid using long USB extension cables, as they can significantly reduce charging current and efficiency. A direct connection to a high-power wall adapter is always best.
I've heard of the speaker sounding muffled or maybe squeaky after taking it into cold water. Is that normal, and how do you fix it?
Yes, that can happen sometimes. It's usually due to temporary air pressure differences inside the sealed unit after a rapid temperature change. If the speaker sounds squeaky or muffled after submersion in cold water, just allow up to 30 minutes for the detector's internal air pressure to normalize naturally. Laying the detector on the ground with the control pod standing vertically can sometimes help equalize that internal air pressure faster. It's often just a temporary effect and should resolve itself.
And if the headphone icon is showing on the screen, but I don't actually have any headphones plugged in, that sounds like a phantom connection. What causes that?
That usually means there's moisture or maybe conductive dirt inside the headphone socket itself, causing a false electrical connection that tricks the detector into thinking headphones are plugged in.
How do I fix that?
Check the socket thoroughly for any water, mud, or obstructions. If water is present, the best approach is to use a warm, not hot, air dryer on a low setting to gently and thoroughly dry the inside of the socket. It needs to be completely bone dry for proper function and for the icon to disappear.
The detector also has a range of specific error messages that can pop up on screen. What do they mean, and how should we respond when we see one?
Right, these messages are designed to alert you to specific, often critical issues. The critically low battery error means just that the battery is about to die and the detector will shut down in about 5 seconds.
What do I do?
To resolve it, you need to recharge the battery immediately or connect a portable power bank. Also, double-check that your charger meets the minimum 2 amp at 5 volt specification we talked about. If you're using a lower-powered source, make sure to charge with a detector switched off next time.
And if the coil gets disconnected somehow while I'm hunting?
You'll see a coil disconnected error message. And again, the detector will shut down in about 5 seconds to prevent issues. If you see this, first, check the coil connection at the control pod. Make sure it hasn't loosened and is screwed in tight. Then visually inspect the coil cable and the coil itself for any obvious signs of damage, like cuts or kinks near the connector.
What if the connection seems fine?
If you happen to have another compatible coil, try connecting that one to see if the error goes away. That helps determine if the issue is with the original coil or the detector itself. If the issue persists, even with a known good coil, you should contact a Minelab authorized service center for diagnosis.
What about software update failures? That sounds potentially scary, like bricking the detector.
A software update failed or wireless software update error can occur if the update process is interrupted. For example, if the magnetic USB cable gets accidentally disconnected during the update process via the Minelab update utility on your computer.
Are these recoverable?
Yes, these are generally user recoverable. Don't panic. Simply reattempt the update process from the beginning, ensuring the cable remains securely connected until the Minelab update utility reports that the process was fully successful. If the wireless component specifically fails to update, wireless audio might not work afterward, but the detector may otherwise function perfectly fine with wired headphones.
And if you see a generic internal error message,
Yeah.
that sounds serious.
For a generic internal error, the first step is always to try restarting the detector by powering it off and then back on. If that doesn't clear the error, the next step is to perform a full factory reset. Remember, hold power for 7 seconds from off. If the error still persists after those steps, then yes, you should contact a Minelab authorized service center, as it may indicate a deeper internal hardware issue that needs professional attention.
There's also a large metal overload indicator icon. What does that signify? When would I see that?
This icon flashes in the status bar if your detector's coil is extremely close to a very large metal mass. Think detecting inside a car, leaning it against a metal storage locker, or trying to scan right up against a large metal fence or shed.
So it's overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's primarily a safety feature designed to prevent the battery from draining rapidly if you accidentally leave the detector switched on in such an environment where it's constantly detecting a massive object. If the overload condition persists for 5 minutes straight, the detector will display a warning message and automatically shut down to conserve power. To resolve it, simply move the detector away from the large metal source and it will resume normal operation.
Beyond troubleshooting when things go wrong, how do we best care for our Manticore on a regular basis to ensure its longevity and continued peak performance over the years?
General care starts with simple habits, really, like washing your hands before handling the detector if you've recently used sunscreen or insect repellent, as the chemicals in those products can potentially degrade plastic surfaces over time.
Good tip. What about the screen and cleaning?
For the display, definitely apply that screen protector right away. And clean it only with a slightly damp cloth and maybe a drop of mild soap. Never ever use solvents or alcohol-based cleaners, which, as we mentioned, can permanently damage the optical plastic. This rule applies to general cleaning for all other parts of the detector as well. Always avoid gasoline, solvents, or other petroleum products, as they can compromise the materials and, crucially, its waterproofing seals.
What about physical protection and preventing wear and tear, especially on moving parts like the shafts and cam locks?
Just be generally mindful. Avoid sharp objects coming into contact with the detector body or coil. Try to prevent excessive sand and grit from getting into the moving parts like the shafts, the cam locks, and the yoke assembly where the coil mounts. If grit does accumulate, rinse those areas thoroughly with fresh water and dry them completely.
Do the cam locks need maintenance?
Periodically, maybe every few months of regular use, check your cam locks. If the shafts are starting to slip, you can tighten the little thumb screws on the cam locks slightly, but never ever over-tighten them, as that can crack or damage the cam lock parts. Just snug them up. Also, it's a good idea to reduce the cam lock tension slightly before storing the detector for long periods to prevent stress on the components.
And battery maintenance for the long term. How do we keep that internal lithium-ion battery healthy, especially if we don't use the detector for a while?
Lithium-ion battery performance can degrade if they're left completely discharged or unused for very long periods. To prevent this, Minelab recommends fully charging the battery at least once every 3 to 4 months, even if you're not actively using the detector.
Is the battery last forever?
Even with proper care, battery performance will naturally reduce gradually over many charge cycles and years of use. It may eventually need replacement by a Minelab authorized service center after several years. And critically, if you ever have the battery replaced, do not apply any chemicals or lubricants like O-ring lubricant, grease, or silicone grease to the battery compartment seals or O-rings. This will damage the seals and compromise the detector's waterproofing.
And the coil and skid plate, anything specific there?
The skid plate is a sacrificial part. It's specifically designed to protect your valuable coil from abrasion and impacts. Always use it. Replace it when it becomes excessively worn before it wears completely through anywhere. This ensures your main coil underneath remains protected and performs optimally. They're relatively cheap compared to a new coil.
What's the absolute must-do protocol immediately after beach or saltwater detecting? That salt can be so corrosive.
This is absolutely crucial for longevity if you hunt in salt environments. Immediately after detecting at the beach or in saltwater, rinse all parts of the detector thoroughly with fresh water. Don't wipe it down first if it's covered in sand, as wiping sandy surfaces will scratch them. Rinse first.
Flush everything.
Yes. Open both cam locks fully and flush them thoroughly with clean, fresh water to remove trapped sand and salt. It's also recommended to remove the rubber shaft bung at the end of the lower shaft and flush the insides of the shafts as well. For the headphone socket, ensure the area around the connector is completely dry and free of sand or mud before disconnecting headphones or removing the dust cap after underwater use. Salt and grit are your detector's worst enemies if left unattended.
Any other general care tips? Storage, temperature.
Always store your detector within a reasonable temperature range. The manual says manage to 20 degrees C to plus 70 degrees C, and it's 4 degrees to 158 degrees V. Critically, avoid leaving it in a hot car, especially in direct sunlight, as extreme heat can permanently damage the battery and potentially the electronics. Ensure the coil cable isn't stored under strain, kinked, or tightly bent.
What about accessories?
Don't expose non-waterproof accessories like the charging cable or non-waterproof headphones to moisture. Keep small parts like coil bolts or washers away from young children, as they could be a choking hazard. Only charge the detector within a safe temperature range specified as 0 degrees C to plus 40 degrees C, 32 degrees air to 104 degrees air.
And you don't.
Never use tools like pliers to tighten the coil connector to the control pod. Hand tight is sufficient. And never try to adjust or tighten the connector nut on the control pod itself. It's factory locked in place for waterproofing. Finally, if the speaker grill gets clogged with mud, clean it by flushing fresh water gently through it. Never poke sharp objects into the grill holes.
And lastly, software updates. These seem important for getting new features, performance improvements, and bug fixes. How do we keep our Manticore up to date?
Your Manticore software can be updated using the supplied USB cable, which handles both charging and data transfer. You should periodically visit the official Minelab website, minelab.com, to check for the most up-to-date Manticore software and download the Minelab Update Utility, MUU, along with detailed updating instructions.
How do I know what version I have currently?
We quickly check your current detector software information, including the main software version, hardware version, and wireless component versions. Simply navigate to Settings, General Settings Software Info on your detector. Staying updated ensures you have the latest performance enhancements, features, and fixes, keeping your Manticore operating at its absolute best and benefiting from ongoing development.
Let's bring all this incredible knowledge together now with some best practices and maybe a clear path for continuous improvement. What are some practical tips for applying all this knowledge out in the field and really improving your detecting game with the Manticore?
Okay, fundamental techniques first. To maximize your coverage and ensure you don't miss targets, always sweep your coil slowly and deliberately, and ensure each pass overlaps the previous one by at least 50%. Don't rush it.
Overlap is key.
Absolutely. And critically, learn to use the 2D ID map and the audio feedback together. Don't rely solely on one or the other. This combination provides the most comprehensive information for discrimination and accurate target identification, allowing you to interpret those complex signals much more effectively.
So it's not just about the numbers or the sounds in isolation, but how they interact visually and audibly, telling a full story of what's beneath the coil.
Exactly. They paint a complete picture together. And a fantastic way to accelerate your learning curve is to practice with known targets.
Like a test garden.
Precisely. Set up a small test garden in your backyard or a controlled area. Bury different coins, rings, maybe various types of common scrap metal like foil, pull tabs, nails, at different depths and orientations. This helps you learn their unique signals, target IDs, and how they look on the ID map in a controlled environment, without the pressure and variables of an unknown site.
Learn their signatures.
Yes. And when you start out at real sites, begin in easy ground conditions if possible, areas with less mineralization and maybe less trash. Use simpler modes like all-terrain general to build your confidence and get a feel for the machine. As you gain experience and confidence, then start progressively exploring the advanced features and custom settings we've discussed.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as a new Manticore owner? It means you have an incredibly powerful tool in your hands and hopefully, after this deep dive, a clearer, structured path to becoming a master of it. Let's maybe lay out a quick learning path for beginners. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, think of it in stages, perhaps. In week one, maybe just focus on the fundamentals. Comfortable assembly, getting the feel of it, basic menu navigation, and understanding essential settings like volume and backlight. Get comfortable with the physical feel and swing of the detector. Don't even worry too much about finding treasure yet. Just focus on operating it smoothly.
Okay, week one, basics and handling. And week two, what should be the focus then?
Week two, it could be all about building crucial muscle memory for those essential functions and sharpening your audio interpretation. Practice doing ground balancing and noise cancel until they are absolutely second nature. You should be able to do them quickly and confidently without really thinking about it. Also, get comfortable using that 2D ID map for basic target identification. Start to recognize those common coin traces and the different patterns Ferris targets make.
So after getting the basics and core functions down, that's when we start to really dig into the deeper customization and fine-tuning.
Precisely. Week three could be the time to begin exploring the nuances of the different audio themes, playing with target tones, and experimenting with the discrimination settings, both Ferris limits and discrimination pattern. This is where you really start to tailor the detector to your preferences and the specific types of sites you hunt. Don't be afraid to experiment. Dig a few pieces of known junk just to learn their specific IDs and audio signature in different settings.
Learn the trash sounds, too. And week four and beyond. That's when you really unleash the full potential and maybe tackle more challenging environments.
That's the time. Dive into the more advanced features, maybe create some custom profiles for your favorite hunting spots, and venture into more challenging environments like salt-laden beaches or heavily mineralized gold fields if that's your interest. Each new environment will present unique learning opportunities, and with this foundational knowledge you've built up, you'll be much better prepared to adapt your settings and truly push your Manticore's impressive capabilities.
And for those who want to keep learning and stay connected with other detectorists using the Manticore, where should they go for additional resources beyond this deep dive?
We'll always refer back to the official Minelab Manticore user manual for detailed instructions, specifications, and troubleshooting charts. It's your comprehensive written guide. Keep it handy.
Good advice.
Beyond that, join online forums and user groups dedicated to metal detecting, and specifically, the Minelab Manticore. There are some great communities out there. They're invaluable for tips, sharing experiences, good and bad, finding settings, suggestions for specific targets or locations, and getting support from other detectorists who are using the same machine.
And visual learners.
If you're a visual learner, utilize video tutorials on platforms like YouTube. There are many excellent detectorists sharing videos demonstrating techniques, explaining settings visually, and showing real-world hunts with the Manticore. There's a wealth of information out there to help you on your journey to mastering this detector.
So today we've taken a really comprehensive deep dive into your Minelab Manticore. We've tried to cover everything from its physical setup right out of the box to understanding its most intricate settings. We've aimed to arm you with the knowledge to not just use your detector, but to truly understand its signals, adapt it effectively to any environment, and troubleshoot common issues that might pop up in the field.
The Manticore is indeed an incredible piece of technology. It's like a finely tuned instrument, really. A bridge between you and the hidden history, the lost items beneath your feet. It's designed to give you every possible advantage in your pursuit of discovery.
But remember, as powerful as the Manticore is, the most valuable tool isn't just the detector itself. It's your ability to interpret its language. Your skill in listening closely, watching that screen, and understanding its subtle cues.
That's where the real magic happens.
So, as you head out on your next adventure with your Manticore, maybe consider this. What forgotten stories, what lost connections, what little pieces of history are waiting just beneath the surface for you to uncover? Just by listening a little closer and understanding a little deeper, the Earth holds its secrets, but with your Manticore and your growing knowledge, you now hold a very powerful key. Good luck out there.